I first read this book 6 years ago and I still think about it today. And after completing my bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's in creative writing, I read it again, and it was then that I realized it wasn't only a book about writing, but a book about how to navigate life. It gives writing and life lessons in a very digestible, humorous way that feels lighthearted and warm and not instructional in the way that self-help books do. So in this video, I want to review the most important writing and life lessons that I found in this book. And the writing lessons do not apply only to writers, but actually to anybody who is in a not creative endeavor. So let's start with the life lessons, which we all can relate to. And the first one that I sort of connected with was the one which she calls the voice of the oppressor, or the source of our inaction, which is perfectionism. Oftentimes we avoid to do things because they are not perfect, or we don't have the right gear, we don't have the right tools, we don't have the right courses, we haven't had the right degrees. So we procrastinate and we put our passions and hobbies to the side until we attain those things, thinking that they are the keys to the doors of the thing that we want to do. But in reality, this perfectionism mindset only hinders us from taking action. And an example that I relate to when it comes to this was before I started my podcast Hazawi, which means in classical Arabic stories, I thought about starting that same podcast for 2 years. I researched on how to start a podcast, what platform hosts the episodes, what gear will I use, what mics, what camera, and everything that has to do with the podcast. But I did not start. And once I decided to start, I had none of those things that I researched in the past. I literally just took my laptop, had my friend on a Zoom call, and we just talked about writing, and I recorded it and posted it. And the following one, I bought mics and I recorded it with my brother in my living room. And as I recorded more episodes, I just got better at asking questions, and I bought more gear, and then I bought a camera, and lo and behold, I even interviewed someone. Her name is SK Ali, who is an author and a New York Times bestseller. She has a bunch of books on Muslim experiences and mainly focus on YA genre. But then I also interviewed writing friends and people who are in the publishing industry, and I talked about a range of things. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that once I overcame that perfectionism mindset, once I let go of getting the right gear or the right sort of like courses to take, then I started booking more people and having more conversations and posting more. But I love the way Alima puts it in her book when she talks about perfectionism and how to deal with it. And she says, deal with yourself as if you are dealing with a wounded friend. What would you tell your friend if he comes or she comes to you and plays the piano or reads a story or a poem that she wrote for the very first time? We know first drafts or first attempts of anything, we are usually very, very bad at it. But if a friend of yours who you love dearly, who you respect, comes to you with a poem, what would you tell them? You're not gonna tell them, oh, you suck, or you should forget about this poetry thing. I mean, if you do, then you are a very bad friend and you shouldn't have any friends. But in reality, the way we would treat this friend is that we would tell them, it's alright, this is not bad. Work on this part of the poem, strengthen this imagery. You know, it needs more emotions. We will give them feedback that will make them better, or that will make the poem better, but we will be encouraging. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. The second life lesson is giving. And giving here is not referred to only money, but also knowledge, time, emotions, and all the things that would make us feel better about ourselves when we help others. This does not mean is that we only help others to feel good about ourselves or to feel superior, but the more we give from ourselves, the closer we get to other people, and the more communal we become. We do live in a time, especially in this part of the world, where individualism is rewarded. You get all these Instagram, videos where people tell you, ignore others, or protect your time, protect your schedule, and this rigid mindset where it builds everything around oneself without the attempt to share more of what you have with others. This does not mean to become a people's pleaser, but strike a balance where you are giving more. And I feel like this is one of these timeless wisdoms that goes across culture and across time, where the more you give, the more you gain, or the better opportunities you will find. I remember I was a kid, I would receive money from my uncles and older cousins during holidays, and my mom would tell me, save part of that money and give it to someone who is less fortunate. So, you know, it would be a friend who did not probably gain as much money, or someone in school. And I remember my mom telling me, the more you give others, the more you will get the next holiday. And I sort of had the math in it, and the math didn't square at the end of the day, because the older you get in my culture, the less money you receive. So I thought I was in this whole scam thing. But in reality, the more you give of your time, the more opportunities you will find other people giving their time for you as well. The more you give feedback for people's writing, the more they are willing to give feedback in yours, because we are communal creatures. And it doesn't mean that we are transactional, but it just means we need each other to survive. And it's more enjoyable to do things together, to do things for each other, than it is to sort of put yourself in a box and only do it for yourself by yourself. The third life lesson, and for me, to be honest, this is the toughest one to digest, because I don't tend to admit this about myself even when I'm by myself, which is jealousy. This is one of those feelings where most of us are in denial of. We will badmouth someone or talk about someone's habits or the way they carry their things, or about their writing, or even about their skill set at work, and we think we are being analytically accurate, while some of that is being jealous because of they accomplished more, or whatever the reason might be. I remember this one time where a friend of mine who was younger than me, a few years younger than me actually, who was doing much better than me. He was landing better jobs, getting paid more, and his life was just overall going in a better direction than my life. And you know, at that time, by the age that I thought I was gonna do much better, but I wasn't. And that affected how I felt about myself, but also affected how I felt about him. You know, he would tell me about a new job that he just received and a bonus that came with it. And in the moment, I would tell him congratulations, and I would genuinely feel happy for him, because I think he's a good person and he deserves all the good things that happen to him in life, because he deserves it. But when I'm alone and I'm thinking by myself, I just think to myself, why not me? Why all these things, good things, are happening to him? What am I doing wrong? And I didn't choose to be jealous. It's not like I woke up one day and I just started hating him, but it comes as a sort of side effect from not watching yourself and not critiquing yourself and not looking at yourself from an outside view. And this happens when you journal. If you journal, then you will see that feeling that you feel, the negativity that you feel, where it comes from, where does it land in your body? Is it like in your heart? Is it pressing in your chest? Is it like stuck somewhere in your head? And then from that you can better treat it or find ways for you to exit. And for Alama, she said there are 3 ways that you will get over jealousy. One is you will get older and you will forget about it, you'll get over it. And the second is that you talk to someone about it until it goes away. And the third is to use it as material. Because remember, if you are a writer, then your characters, the main character that you're writing about, the side characters that you are writing about, are people. So you can use that as material. You can use those feelings as material, and you know, make one of them jealous about one another about a certain thing that they wanted in the first place. But what I found helpful for me specifically with that friend is that I literally one day just prayed for him. And the way I just wished that he gains more than what he already had. Because at the end of the day, I did think that he deserved it. And for some reason, that feeling just went away. And the more I asked for him to gain more, the more that feeling subsidized and went away. Because at the end of the day, I did not have control of what I felt. I did not know where it came from. I did not know how to deal with it, but I knew I had control over how I reacted to it. And maybe you're not a religious person and you're not into this praying thing, but I think it can still be useful. Just the concept of wishing for the people that you are jealous from, or the person that you are jealous from, to have more of what they already have, because they are good people and they deserve it. Now, if you think they don't deserve it, then that's a problem that I don't know how to deal with. But at the end of the day, focus on what you have and be grateful for it. Then try to work to gain the things that they already have. So those are the 3 life lessons: perfectionism, giving, and jealousy. Now I will go into the 3 writing lessons, and if you're not a writer, you can still stick around because it will also apply to your creative endeavor. Here are the 3 writing lessons that I found Bird by Bird, the book by Anlama, helpful. First, and this is the most important lesson for writers and creatives, and I get very, very passionate when it comes to this, is that shitty first draft. Every time you sit down and write for the very first time, not in life, but on the project that you're working on, or the first time you talk to a camera, or the first time you try to play the guitar, or the first time you do anything, is going to suck. So quit judging yourself and allow yourself to discover the thing that you are trying to discover through your writing, or the story that you are trying to discover through your writing, and later on you can be critical to make it better. But for the very first draft, leave it as it is. Just write. That's all you have to do. Just write. And I'm not saying that I'm good at this, but I have gotten way better over the years than I was, 5-6 years ago, where I used to be stuck in one page, revising it over and over and over and over until I thought it was perfect. But it does not reach perfectionism, never. But what you do is you discover the story through the first draft, and after that, then you pick the parts that you want to build more, or the parts that you want to take out. And this mentality of just doing the thing for the sake of the thing for the first time so that you can discover the thing, it helps with ignoring that voice of doubt, because all writers know once you sit down and you try to write, those voices will start telling you that you're not good enough. For me, it comes as English is your second language. What are you doing? Nobody's gonna read what you write. You're embarrassing yourself. You're revealing too much about your culture, too much about your family, too much about your personal life, and people will judge you and you will never be discovered. And if so, they're gonna make fun of you. Those are the voices I have in my head. And the better I ignore them, the more I write and the more I enjoy the writing process. And it all comes from just sticking to the discovery mentality of the very first draft and getting through it. Later on, I can analyze the story for what it is and then going back to edit it to become the story that it wants to be. Because at the end of the day, those characters almost shape themselves for themselves. Writing lesson or creative lesson number 2. Short assignments, which means after overcoming the perfectionism problem with your first draft and just doing it for the sake of discovery, then assigning yourself very, very small assignments so that you can build that story brick by brick. The goal every day isn't to sit and write 1,000 words. It might be, those are good goals to have, especially the second one, but the goal in reality is to sit down and write the first day the character wakes up and how they feel after they done that surgery. The goal is to write up the scene between the mother and the daughter after the mother finds out the daughter is pregnant after waiting 30 years. The short assignment is writing about what the main character sees out of the window of a very sunny, beautiful summer day, but that day or the night before, his mother died. Does he still see that same beauty, or what does he see? And then that's what you write for that particular day. Those are not perfect examples, but they illustrate that once you break down your writing assignments or your writing sessions into small assignments, then they become easier to approach than, okay, I'm gonna write 500 a day, 500 words or 1,000 words of whatever that comes to mind. It doesn't work, and it's not motivating, and it does not build a reward cycle in your brain for you to return to writing with an enthusiasm. Because if you set a goal for yourself, I'm gonna write this very specific scene and then I'm done for the day, then the following day you know that you're just gonna write the following scene, whether it's like a scene, a dialogue, whatever it is, because you just know that you are building onto the thing that you already wrote the day before. And that gives you a sense of reward, and if you have a sense of reward, then you are more likely to return to the writing over and over. The third writing lesson is writing blocks. This is the monster of all creative people. If they hit a wall, what do they do? Now, for me, I can't say that I have experienced what a writing block is. For me, the way writing works is that there are periods where I write a lot, and then there are periods where I even struggle to sit down. I tell myself that those periods is because of time, because of I'm working a lot of hours, there's a lot of family obligations, and I just can't find the time to just sit down and write. Most of the time is a lie, but in reality, in those times where I don't write, I don't feel like I have the juice or the energy or the creative sort of thing that helps me to sit down and write. But I know, and I've tested this, even when I feel the way I'm describing, if I sit down and just for 10 minutes, even if it is a very hard 10 minutes, just concentrate on just the writing piece, or just do nothing but except writing. So don't go on my phone, don't try to scribble, don't try to like take a walk, just sit down at the desk and just wait for the words to flow. Then after about 10 minutes, then I will start to write something. It's not the best thing that I would write, but then that creative engine will start working. And for Alma, she hates calling it a writing block or a block, because for her, she says that it gives you the sort of reason, or it gives you the excuse to not write at all, and you can procrastinate for weeks, months, and sometimes years, just telling yourself is a writing block. And the example that she uses is that if your wife blocks you away from the house or from entering the house, then your problem is not the door, your problem is your wife. And for her, then writing block is a symptom, not the problem. And the problem is a lack of acceptance. We live in a culture that hyper focuses on improvement and elevating pain and putting yourself through uncomfortable situations, and it lacks this sense of acceptance that sometimes you are going through hard time or time that feels sluggish. And so once you accept that those sluggish times will come, then you are more likely to be okay with yourself when you are going through it. But Alma does not say, oh, if you are recognizing that you are going through tough creative time, it doesn't mean that, recognize it and live with it and do not write. No, she says you have to push yourself to write, even if it is sitting down and writing 500 words, 1 page, half a page about anything, even about why writing sucks or why is it hard for you in this particular time. Because what she doesn't want to happen is for you to lose the habit of writing and forget about that creative passion that you have for writing or any creative endeavor that you are doing. Because once you stay away from it for a very long time, then it becomes awkward for you to go back. She says she asks herself during those times, if today was the last day to live, what would I do? Or even what would I write about? And then that will force her to write something. It's gonna be about her life. It's gonna be really bad, but then at the end of the day, it's gonna help her write for that particular day. And this reminds me of George Saunders, because he has a very similar practice where he says that he tries to live his life, let alone his writing, in a way where he's reminded by death a lot. And this doesn't mean that it's a sort of like negative, sad, emotional state, but then is a motivator to keep himself honest. He says this: a friend dies, or when he's attending a funeral, that mental state where you see life for what it is without the glamour that we all seek, or the money or the fame or anything that surrounds the material world. If we just hold on to that state of mind for as long as we can, then our writing will be less daunting. We will find life easier to live and enjoy the moment to moment more. And maybe this is what life, writing, and everything that's in between them is really about, is to live life moment by moment and enjoying those moments as much as we can. And the reminder of death, or remind ourselves that one day we will die, it just puts us in perspective that not to take life too seriously. This doesn't mean just chill on the couch and eat potato chips and drink soda, but it just means that if we are sluggish, or if we're not feeling good a particular day or even a particular week, then to accept that, to talk to people, to talk to those around us, to seek help, even if it is taking a walk, and to take care of ourselves, but not to blame ourselves for what we are going through internally. Take it easy, take a step back, take life for what it is, be grateful for all the things that you already have, and that time will pass, and then another time, a creative time will come, and then that will end, and then another creative time will come again. That's what life is. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like this type of life reflection things, I do a lot of it in my newsletter. It's called Increments. I send it every week. Check the link in the description below. You can sign up. It's free. I send it on Mondays, not too long, very light-hearted life reflections, and there's a lot of writing reflections in it too. Sign up, you'll enjoy it, and until next time.